Hello and welcome to episode 174 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRP. And joining me as always is the toothsome League Freak, who you can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
Did you say toothsome?
Toothsome.
What's that mean?
Temptingly tasty.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's it's a bit stalkery, really.
Let's put an
Wow.
air of awkwardness in the room.
Yeah. It's like saying, like going and meeting your mates at the pub and saying, "Oh, wow, you look cute today," and then just the rest of the day is all weird. Not that I've ever done that, but that'd be weird, hey?
I'm going to save cute for the next intro.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, we've had a bit of news. I mean, obviously you broke it earlier today in a quick episode, but we'll go into a bit more. Sharks centre Bronson Xerri has tested positive for banned substances, and yes, that's plural.
Mm.
He's got. Well, I looked at the press release as to what was in his system, and it pretty much just said all banned substances. He's got them all there. I think he may have even had a bit of rapid growth fertilizer in there, mate. There was just he must have gone to Bunnings as well. He ran out of everything from the chemist.
That's hilarious.
Jeez, man.
The only thing he didn't have was that good shit that Shane Warne's mum had. You remember that shit that made him look nice? You know?
Diuretics.
Yeah. Man, the thing about the list that he was taking, right, that kind of jumped out to me. Now, I'm not a doctor. We've established that. But it seemed like he was taking the old shit, some of the newer shit, and some of the real good new shit. Like, he was on a bunch of things. And I saw it actually described as like the sort of level that he's alleged to have been at is like Ben Johnson sort of stuff. You know, where he was just taking everything. It was weird.
The only comment I saw was that none of what was found was a masking agent.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, he's just gone all in here. Now, it's worth noting this was a test done in November last year. And the weird thing is there's a lot of people criticising the media and ASADA for revealing the positive test result now, thinking that it was like some sort of opportunity to try and get extra publicity because the NRL is about to start. And while obviously we've been open to criticising the media whenever they've put their foot wrong, ain't no chance in hell I'm criticising them over this one, because the problem in this one is not the media, it's the dickhead who put the banned substance in their body knowing full well that they were going to get drug tested and banned if found with drugs in their system. So it's completely inexcusable, and Bronson Xerri is an idiot. He's still got to have his B sample tested. If that comes back positive, which I'll be shocked if it isn't.
Has there ever been a B sample that has come back negative?
I think there have been.
Really?
But it doesn't mean you get out of jail. It probably just means that you get a reduced suspension, but you may not get the massive one. It depends too, I guess, case to case, but I'm pretty sure there has been a few cases. I think cocaine use or marijuana use won't show up in the B sample. I could be wrong. Only because they tend to get through the system pretty quickly, I believe, don't they?
Well, cocaine does. Marijuana stays in your system for about 3 months from memory.
Oh, there you go.
But that's why allegedly people would use cocaine is that, it's out of your system. I think it's out of your system within 48 hours. The problem is that they can test you with a hair follicle test.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if meth is the same way, because I remember there was a documentary that Ben Cousins was a part of years ago, and I remember flicking the channels and it just happened to come on at the right time, and he was talking to the drug testing people, And he had obviously known that there was drug tests coming up because they said to him, okay, well, we're going to give you a hair follicle test. And he had shaved his entire body. And they were like, you haven't got any, downstairs or nothing? He had shaved everything, his legs, his arms, his head, everything had been shaved. So
there's always hairs inside the arse cheek. Surely I could have found one in there.
Oh, I'm not going to go digging around in Bez and Cousin's ass for nothing.
Man, could you imagine the colour of his piss? It'd just be fluoro green, wouldn't it?
I mean, what was the colour of the that blue? Was it the blue meth that Walter White had in Breaking Bad? It'd just be whatever colour that was. But allegedly. But yeah.
The lawyers are going overtime here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look,
I was going to say, Ben Cousins could go to where they had the nuclear reactor fail in the Ukraine there, and Pripyat.
Yeah,
he could just piss on the ground, and all the uranium in the ground would just go, fuck that! We're not sticking around here.
Yeah, this is fucking dangerous.
that shit could kill you.
Yeah, exactly. This test was an out-of-competition test, right? It was on November 25th last year. It was after he had shoulder surgery. Now, keep in mind, he's 19 years old, and he's had shoulder surgery. So I can see where it would help you get back quicker from having shoulder surgery, but at the same time, I mean, what the fuck? This
is the thing, though. I don't know. I'm speculating here because I haven't read too much more into the story.
Yep.
But would there be any chance that maybe one of the things that was in his system could have come from the operation itself? I don't know.
I doubt it, and I'll tell you why I doubt it. Because he is a professional athlete, and I think that if a doctor prescribed him that, knowing he's a professional athlete, I would think that, there'd be medical records. It'd be on his medical records and everything.
True.
That would have to be the only way out of it.
And I suppose there's plenty of players who've had the similar operation before and never come back with this sort of thing. So
yeah, exactly. It would be like, when the MMA fighters for a while, when they started pissing hot and they were saying that there was one of them said that they'd been to Australia and they'd had kangaroo meat, and that's why they tested positive. There's so many dumb fucking things. There was another one that was, I'm pretty sure they said they'd had steak, and that's why they tested positive for all these like high-end testosterone things. And somebody pointed out, like, there is no fucking way that you're giving thousands and thousands of beef cattle this fucking high-end testosterone.
Yeah, exactly.
Just ridiculous.
I think the best response I ever saw to a player having a high testosterone reading was that Adam McDougall or Robbie O'Davis. They said they had a low sperm count and they needed that to keep it up, or something along those lines.
Well, you know what? That's what we would call, and my understanding is that's what we would now call testosterone replacement therapy, right? Now, that is actually a thing. And I think what will eventually happen with males of a certain age is you'll just go into testosterone replacement therapy as your testosterone levels drop as you get older. What happened in MMA is that some fighters found that there was a way around the old testing regime they used to have. So they'd go to a doctor and the doctor would say, oh, yeah, you've got low testosterone. We'll give you a TRT. And these not too much older fighters, a lot of them were in their 30s. They started getting TRT and were fucking monsters all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I believe that's what we would call TRT now. My understanding is that Adam McDougall did actually have a case for that. I don't know some of the other players that were around at that time. So,
It's an interesting one. But what we can agree on is Bronson Xerri's an idiot.
Yes. This is I think you and me have talked about this before. At some point, if you fail at this level, it's an IQ failure more than anything.
Yeah, and your suspension, and we'll get into this in another episode, your suspension has to be more heavily weighted towards the level of stupidity that you've gone through more so than the act itself.
Yeah, there's been talk that this is going to be years suspension.
Yeah, I've seen 4 years being printed around everywhere.
Yeah, if this is of that level, the Jared Mullen level of suspension where it's like, you idiot, that sort of level of suspension, which is crazy. And the other crazy thing is that means he'll be 23 years old when he can play professional sport again, which I can't ever think of a young athlete like that in a say a football sense or a contact sport sense that has been suspended for that long, that young, where he can come back. He'd still be, 23 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's I suppose that begs the question too. Who would take him on when he comes back?
Well, here's the thing, right? If he's been on the gear already, and he's obviously, very talented, extremely talented, but you got to wonder, if this has been done before. As a 23-year-old, and he won't be tested for the next 4 years, I think I would sign him up.
At the Panthers?
Yeah. And this is me being like, putting I'm in the NRL, I'm completely selfish, this is complete self-interest, I don't care about morals hat on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you sign him up at the West Tigers in say 4 years from now? He's 23-year-old.
Geez, I don't know if the Tigers have the cap space. We'll probably still have Moses and Bond on $3 million a year by then.
I don't know. You'll just be having Josh Reynolds coming off the books about that.
Oh, that's true. Geez, we might have a bit of cap space available. Yeah, why not?
Probably just finishing up Kieran Foran's contract that they'll throw at him soon.
Well, he'd be good for at least $1 million.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm being mean now. I'm sorry.
Well, you say mean. It's a very high likely chance of it actually happening.
Oh, it sucks. It sucks. But yeah, it's
sorry.
I
was going to say there was you come across some very, very let's call them interesting comments from one of Cherry's former teammates.
Yes. Cronulla Sharks great Paul Gallen is not a fan of ASADA for some reason. I'm not sure why. And he made some comments on 2GB's Wide World of Sports Radio, which I like to call the shit hour of radio on 2GB. And that's saying something. Some of the comments he had here, he said, and I quote, I think it's pretty clear that I'm not a fan of ASADA due to what we went through all those years ago. That's been dealt with now, but certain things I saw from ASADA back then, which I've written about in my book, now after seeing this as well, you have to think whether ASADA are trying to create headlines. Are they really there for the good of the game? Are they really trying to catch people doing the wrong thing, or are they there just to create headlines? I found out it was taken in November and it was released today. You've got to ask questions as to why it was released today. End quote.
Paul. Let's take his comments seriously for a second, shall we?
There's more. There's more here.
No way.
Do you want some more?
Yeah, okay.
Dare I say, put these quotes into your veins. Quote, then you start asking questions like, don't ASADA have a duty of care? And doesn't the NRL have a duty of care towards the competition? I know firsthand Bronson Xerri was within a day or two of playing round 2, so he could have well and truly played round 2. Now, if he went out on the field and hurt someone on the field because he was enhanced, does that person then have the right to come back at ASADA or the NRL and sue them? This happened in November, as we know. They released Josh Morris in March to go to the Roosters. Had this been dealt with in November, which it probably should have, there's no salary cap issues, and they still got a really good centre there in Josh Morris. Now they've lost a really good centre in Josh Morris and Bronson Xerri. He goes on to say a few other things. He questions the timing of it. He's an idiot.
Yeah, look, as I was going to say before, if we take him seriously on his comments there about what was it? Along the lines of,
are they there just to make headlines?
Yeah, headlines thing. But if we think about that one, what headlines could ASADA possibly come up with? I know every single one of them will be someone's tested positive to drugs because that's their job.
Yeah, it's almost as though their entire reason for existing is to eradicate performance-enhancing drug use in professional sport, in amateur sport for that matter.
Oh, there you go, and that's true. And so every headline that's ever going to come about involving ASADA will be involving drug cheats. I think,
it's funny that, hey?
Yeah. As far as trying to take it along the lines of poor Cronulla, okay, and I'm willing to toe the line on this one here and go along with the poor Cronulla thing. Yeah, poor Cronulla. They've lost 2 good players. But you know what? One of them, Josh Morris, wanted out. Mm-hmm. They didn't let go of him because they didn't want him. He demanded to leave.
Yeah. And
they let him go, which is the right thing to do. There's no point hanging on to a player who wants to go. They did the right thing there. And to have had Bronson Xerri being at a moron and fuck his club over like this, yeah, poor Cronulla, absolutely. But I'm not going to sit there and say that Cronulla deserve anything in return for this.
No.
That's just unfortunate.
Of all the clubs.
Well,
of all the fucking clubs.
I can easily move on from a team doing something stupid in the past. Mm-hmm. But I think whenever it comes to a performance-enhancing drug issue in the game of rugby league, if I was Paul Gallen, I'd just say, you know what, I might just call in sick this week from work, and I won't say anything. Mm-hmm. If anyone asks me anything, I'll just say, I think I've got the flu. I might just come in next week. And just keep doing that until people stop asking you the question. Talk about putting a target on you.
I know. And like in the past, and I think we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. I can't remember how in-depth we've been, but I'm willing to say that the Cronulla Sharks players were hard done by the club, not by ASADA, but by the actions of the club.
Agreed.
And people at the club.
Yeah.
I'm willing to look past that, right? Then there was the salary cap stuff. And you kind of go, all right, well, that's really bad. And then you find out that the coach who's been banned and it has to sit out, is still dealing with things within the club. And so he then gets a life ban, which didn't last very long, but he then gets a life ban. And I can still go like, okay, but then in there they win a premiership. And now I'm starting to go, well, hang on a second, especially when it was like either side of that premiership victory season, they were doing things with the cap. I don't like that. And then you get to this point and look, this seems like it's an individual thing. And hopefully it is. But it's a really bad look. And at the very least, for a club like the Cronulla Sharks, who I mean, every single club is struggling for sponsorship and stuff like that. Everyone's having to renegotiate their deals and stuff. This is the very last thing that the Cronulla Sharks need. I feel sorry for the Sharks in this case, but man, it's a real bad look, and it's going to tarnish the club's reputation, unfortunately.
And which is the worst thing, because I think once Flanagan left the club, and then you had Gallen retiring, you had this core of young players that would come through. They were a very exciting team. John Morris had done an outstanding job as coach in his first year, given the way he came into the job, very short notice. Phenomenal job. And so the Sharks, for me, had turned a corner. They weren't that team of the past that had all that crap surrounding them. They turned a corner. They were moving into, good PR. They're moving in a different direction. It was the post-Gallen Flanagan era. They were going somewhere completely new and different. It was the change they needed. This just drags them all the way back to 2014. And as much as I can sit there and say, you know what, I'm not going to attach this to that. Too many people in both the media and fans, especially fans of rival clubs, are just going to bring them all the way back to that again. And I'm not going to say that it's unjustified, but it's going to happen. And it's just from there, it creates another public image that they struggled to get away from for years. When the ASADA stuff went on there in 2013, 2014, they're just going to get dragged back into that caper again. So I feel whenever this shit happens, I always feel worse for the fans first.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who get fucked over big time by this shit.
And the thing about this one too is like, and I try and line it up with how I feel as a fan with stuff. Like when there were issues at the Panthers in terms of there was a player who was filming women without their consent, and a lot of people will bring that up. Man, you got to just wear it because it happened, and there's no getting around it. And that's the way that's how I feel Sharks fans must feel. They must be like, as you say, they would start to work towards something positive after a lot of years of negativity around the club. And then this happens. And I mean, it just must be, as a Sharks fan, just like, man, I know what people are going to say, and I just got to sort of cop it because it is what it is. And it sucks.
Yeah, it's very deflating and very crushing for them.
Yeah.
So I do feel for the club, because they're gonna suffer immensely through this, even though it would appear they've done absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah.
They're gonna get hammered for it. So
and
be it.
The thing is too, Rugby League Week Mole posted today on Twitter. Is he Rugby League Week Mole, or can we just call him Moley? I guess Moley.
I think he's the 9 Mole now, isn't he, or something else?
No,
he couldn't just be the Mole.
He's gone now. He's gone from 9 now. The Mole. Let's call him the Mole from now on. He said that there might be other players that end up involved in this. And that's not to say whether they're from any club or anything like that. That's just something he posted today, which I thought was interesting. What I should do is find his exact tweet, actually, because that's not fair on him, and it's not fair on anyone listening to what I'm saying, quite honestly. So let me find his tweet.
Alrighty. Well, I think the other thing too is I was going to say is going back to Paul Gallen. I can see he's trying to, I suppose, view it from the Sharks club perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think too many fans, if they're being genuine, are going to blame the club over this. Like, people are going to poke fun at the club, obviously, because that's an easy target, but not really going to have a go at the club too much over this. This is one player going rogue, doing something stupid. It was interesting to say. I was just going to quickly say before you get to that. On the Fox Sports website, they reported the story on there, And while it's not official, confirmed, that Xerri has taken performance-enhancing drugs, he's only had his A sample test, hasn't had his B sample done. It's when we know when that one comes back positive is when they can actually say, yes, he's definitely taken performance-enhancing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Fox Sports website, they just went all in and they just called him jacked.
Wow. Yeah, they went for it.
I went, if a part of me wants the B sample to come back negative, not because I want Xerri to get off.
Mm.
If he's positive, then I want him to get punished as heavily as possible.
Yeah.
I just want it the B positive to come back negative, and Xerri gets off, and then find out what Fox Sports is going to do about that headline that they've got there.
Yeah. I tell you what, this tweet by Moley, I want to get this out of the way, so it's out of the way. He said 8 hours ago, Moley hearing Xerri won't be the only player charged in coming days. That's all he said. Yeah. Which it would be kind of shocking if more involved.
It would be. And so one thing too about the timing, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes quite a while for all of the tests to be done, all the tests to be carried out.
Yeah.
And then when you consider the difficulty that they would have had doing tests and doing them in a safe and clean environment during all those bushfires and all the smoke that was going around Sydney at the time. And then you had the coronavirus, which would have meant that a lot of places were down to skeleton staff for a while and then no staff. That's that's two pretty big reasons right there why it's taken a bit longer than usual for these results to come out.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is too, like, the idea that ASADA sat on this through all the months, and then like they wanted headlines, and then they were like, no, let's just wait. Let's wait till the season starts, right? And then they'll stop. And then when it's going to start up again down the track sometimes, then we'll announce it. It's completely fanciful.
I mean, what exactly does Gallen think that ASADA gets out of by releasing this news at a very specific time? Does he think they're going to get some sort of big cash grant for announcing it just as the NRL's about to start? Oh, we've got a big captive audience. If we announce it now, we might get money or something. What does he think? How does he think this is going to work?
Yeah, I don't know. And like, when is the good time to find out you might be banned for 4 years? Like,
Christmas Eve?
Yeah. Just after the season finishes, like, it just makes no sense.
I don't know what he is at all entirely getting at. I'll just put it down to the fact that Paul, like every other forward who's ever played the game and then went into commentary, has copped too many knocks to the head and should not be talking in microphones.
Man, you know what? Part of me feels like Paul Gallen should say, look, what happened, happened. And he went through it. A lot of people can talk about it. He was one of the people that went through it. But it's hard to, as an outsider, to listen to his comments and to feel sympathy, because what happened, happened. And, at some point you just got to say, yeah, that happened. I dealt with it. Let's move on. I wouldn't be dragging it back up, personally.
No. Classic example of not reading the room.
Yeah, really classic example of it. I just can't believe that a 19-year-old would allegedly do all of those drugs. And, the weird thing was, and you wouldn't have seen this down in Melbourne, for the last number of months, Bronson Xerri has been very much in the media and talking about how he was even faster than he was last year, and that he'd been working with sprinting coaches and he was so much quicker than he was last year. And there was this really weird thing, and there was something didn't sit right with me, because he was already very quick, like somebody that's at the high end of being fast as a runner doesn't normally come out and talk about how much quicker they are going to be this year. It was really weird. And there were lots of images of him doing the sprint training, and we've talked about like how much does sprint training really help you when you tuck a footy under your arm and put boots on afterwards, you know? I could understand if they were doing the training, look, I'm not a sprint trainer either, funnily enough. But if I was going to train a footy player to run as quick as they possibly could, if they wore mouth guards, I'd want their mouth guard in while I was training them, you know? I want them to be running at their best for footy, not necessarily for track. But it was really weird to see him talking about how much quicker he was. Well, he would be fucking quicker, wouldn't he? How quick do you reckon you could be if you took all that shit for 6 months and just did sprint training?
I could probably run the 100.
I reckon. I'm serious now. I reckon if you give me 6 months and all that shit, I could break. I could get under 11 seconds for sure. But I was very quick when I was younger. But I reckon with all that shit, I could get under 11 seconds. Definitely.
I could move when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
I was a pretty decent sprinter.
Yep.
In saying that, I think my fastest time was like 12 and a half seconds or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't get faster than that. And now, many, many years later, if I took all those drugs and had 6 months worth of training, I reckon I could probably go close to sprinting for a full 100 meters. It'd be slow sprint.
But you'd get there. You'd need the drugs for somebody to say, hang on, I think he's sprinting.
Yeah. What the hell? Haven't seen that for 20 years. And then to the end of it, they're going...
That's probably more likely, hey?
Get rid of the oxygen tent.
What I should be saying is, listen, you give me all that in 6 months, I will look like I'm doing something faster than a jog.
You'd be running to a Porto's instead of just taking the car.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shit. Man.
Because you'd be an Uber, but you wouldn't be taking a car. You'd just be doing piggybacks for people and just using your phone as a GPS.
Man, I might compete in the Everest.
There you go.
The Golden Cock. Oh. It's weird. Isn't rugby league weird? How it just is. When you think things are back on track, something happens.
Well, it's very rugby league, isn't it?
It really is. It was very, very rugby league. Now you know the season's back on track when something like this happens.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 2.5 months to do a proper scandal. Mm-hmm. And it's not until there's a few days before the NRL actually kicks off we actually get a proper one.
Do you reckon that this, like when they're doing the second centenary of rugby league book, right? Do you reckon this thing here today with Bronson Xerri kicks like Nathan Cleary out for his TikTok video when they're doing the write up for what's happening this year?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. The Nathan Cleary one is really, really funny.
Mm. Yeah, I
mean that in a way where it's actually something where you laugh at it because you just go, that is the most pathetic, dumbest thing to ever cop a fine or a suspension for ever in any professional sport.
Easily.
Fully clothed, dancing with fully clothed women. And it's not even sexual or anything like that. There's just no misdemeanors going on.
Just having a bit of fun.
You just appeared close to a few people.
Yeah.
No touching, just close to them.
Mm.
It's the most innocent, yet horribly amusing thing that's happened in rugby league. And I don't know, for that, I think it's just something that will always stick with me. So, remember the fact Nathan Cleary got suspended because he danced?
Yeah. I'm glad you're saying this, because if I say it, people will say, oh, he's just been biased.
You got to you think about it. The Latrell Mitchell and Josh Adokar one was only a little bit worse. I think the thing that's dumber about that one is the fact that Adokar was unlicensed to use a gun.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more serious. But in saying that, they weren't exactly in Sydney.
No.
They're out in the scrub somewhere, so they're not gonna. The chance of infecting anyone is pretty slim anyway. So again, I think it's. I don't think it was that big a deal either.
I agree.
Again, it's just stupid, but that's it. It's just stupid.
Like
if you take the coronavirus thing away,
yeah,
you've still got the gun thing there, which is dumb. So that makes it worse than the Nathan Cleary one. But sweet fuck all if we're honest.
Yeah, I agree. Like looking back on it now, and look, thankfully we're in a different point now in this whole coronavirus thing, which is thankful. And it was a different, I guess, environment for it all back then. But now you look back on it, and one has been fined and suspended for dancing in a video near some people, and the others have been fined and suspended for having a barbecue.
Did Latrell Mitchell actually get suspended? Because I see he's been named this week.
Oh, he might not have been suspended. Maybe they gave Cleary the suspension because they said he'd lied about it because they had not turned up at his house. He'd gone and picked them up.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Rugby leagues. This is the best sport in the world, eh? This is great.
It's just madness.
Yeah.
It is just madness. But that aside, what else has been going on in the world of rugby league?
The other news was that today, or not so much today, over the last few days, there's been talk that the NRL is looking to get fans back in stadiums in some capacity on July the 1st onwards. They would cap crowds. I don't know what they'd cap them at, but I thought that was interesting. Would you go to a footy game on July the 1st?
No.
I wouldn't either.
Mind you, I'd have to go to a Melbourne Storm game, so that kind of sways my decision anyway, because I don't go to many of their games as it is.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that I can understand them aiming for that. I feel like it'll maybe be a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks after that it will actually happen. I don't know that there's any difference when you cap the crowd. I don't know that, outside of if you're getting, say, 40 or 50,000 to a game, that's a bit different. But I think for the crowds that most rugby league games get, if you cap the crowd at, say, 5,000, you might as well just let everyone else in. You're not going to get, huge amounts extra on top of that anyway.
Well, I assume the plan is to have 1.5 metres between each fan, which means you'd have a fan and then probably 2 seats between them. And you'd probably have to have the row behind them and in front of them empty as well.
Yeah, so it's got to be something like that. And look, I think when you start doing those sorts of things, it's more just window dressing because all of those people have to come through the same gates and they're all mingling back out the back of the stand to get food.
Well, let's be honest, they're all standing next to one another when they're taking a piss.
Yeah, exactly. And who doesn't love that, by the way?
Well, that's part of the joy. That's why people love going to Leichhardt. Ever been to the toilet at Leichhardt?
No, I haven't.
You are missing out, man. There's aromas there that haven't been smelt in the last 200-300 years.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, because that was the last time anything in that area was washed.
I remember when I went to the 2008 World Cup? I think it was the World Cup. It might have been. I was up there for the World Cup and one of the tri-series. We lost both finals. But there was one of them, and after the game, I went for a leak, and the toilets were packed. packed full of Queenslanders, obviously. And I remember there was a dude that was standing real close behind me, and I turned around, because I was like, this dude's pretty close behind me. I turned around, and it was this fat Queensland dude, and he's so pissed out of his head. He had no idea what he was doing. And he goes like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "Not bad, mate." Because I realised there was nothing to it. He was just fucking pissed out of his head. Just reminded me of that.
Well, he was either pissed or he was just from Queensland.
Yeah. Maybe he just had maybe he had how some people, their personal boundaries are a little bit shorter than everyone else's.
Yes. Yeah. Social distancing is a very hard concept for a lot of them to understand. Even when there isn't a pandemic on.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, just keep the fuck away from me, you know?
Yeah.
But there are some people that are different.
I like to have a pretty well-known exclusion zone around me.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to going to the toilet.
Well, look, I wasn't going. I wasn't going at the time. I was just lining up. Because if I was going, it would have been different.
But... no, he probably had full intentions of standing right behind you while he did it.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I was sexually assaulted. Was I sexually assaulted?
Quite possibly. Did you have a bit of a blackout? Like, are there gaps in your memory? Do you know what happened next?
No.
Yeah, mate, something bad's happened.
Oh, man. It all becomes clear after a while, eh?
Yeah.
Now I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. It's not your fault.
Okay.
Remember, you're the victim.
I should have mentioned he was jerking me off at the time too. Nah. Oh, Jesus.
So that went to a dark spot real fast.
Sorry, I had to. I'm sorry.
That's probably...
So would you go to a Tigers game on July 1st?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially when, for me, I find it hard to justify to go to rugby league games on a regular occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Because more often than not, you get a better product when you watch it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Other sports can be a bit different. AFL, for example, while I'm not a fan of it, I've had to go and watch it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a game where you get a better understanding of what's going on by being at the actual game as opposed to watching on TV. Mm-hmm. Because the ball is going in all sorts of different directions and players are all over the field, you kind of need to have that whole of field view of what's going on. Whereas in rugby league, everything's 10 metres apart from, 80% of the game.
Yeah.
So it's just perfect for TV. And because of that, it's hard to leave your living room to go and watch a game of rugby league.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, they call it the perfect TV sport, and, I mean, I watch all sorts of sports. I guess the only one that's probably close is the NBA, and even then you're getting half of the playing surface you really need to see in an NBA game. I know it's a lot smaller, but there are things that you do miss when they go closer to the action, whereas in rugby league, you can go close to the action. You might miss the setup and things like that, which I like to see personally. But, for most fans, they are just seeing the action that they want to see.
Yeah, exactly right.
I tell you another bit of news that happened recently. Andrew McCulloch got an immediate release from the Broncos and has joined the Newcastle Knights.
Yeah, and then I heard that he was being chased by the Bulldogs for next year.
I heard that too. I think the Bulldogs this afternoon might have come out and rubbished those claims.
Was that a James Hooper story?
It might have been. But there was, because there's been a lot of talk, the Bulldogs, they're chasing everyone apparently, that they were after Bateman, that they were after Josh Reynolds, obviously, and Andrew McCulloch. I was surprised that the Knights signed McCulloch because going on last year's form, he was pretty much done.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got They've got Jaden Brayley, who's, for mine, he's a lot better than Andrew McCulloch right now. And Jaden Brayley's not exactly I wouldn't say he's one of those absolute star players, but he can do everything that McCulloch does. And he's got easily another 10 years in him. And he'd be cheaper than McCulloch. So
I just think that McCulloch was so bad last year, and like he was
pedestrian.
Yeah, like he just looked like the NRL was way above his level now, unfortunately. And look, it happens, so it happens to players, but I was surprised that he was a player that the Knights were looking at signing. And I look, if the Bulldogs are looking at him, and I don't know that they are, but if they are, they need to look elsewhere.
Yeah, McCulloch would be best served to go over to the UK, I think.
Yeah, he'd probably play another 6 or 7 years over in Super League.
Easy. 6 years in Super League and another 4 years in Championship.
Yeah.
He'll be 49, he'll get to retire.
Just having a little bit of a look on the NRL.com website. Australian Universities team has officially withdrawn from the Student Rugby League World Cup in the wake of the restrictions caused by COVID-19. That was to be held next year in July in England. So July 2021, Australia will not be taking part in the Universities Rugby League, in the Universities World Cup, Students Rugby League World Cup.
I'd be curious to see how this... Oh, little one's woken up.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Little one's just woken up with someone into the room. I'll be interested to see, I guess, how the Rugby League World Cup will go next year if coronavirus sticks around for any longer. Especially in England.
Yeah, well, look, that's the first withdrawal I've seen from any of the World Cups in Rugby League. That's still a long way away. I mean, that's more than a year away. I can understand that they've got students that they've got to look at, so it's a little bit different from the professional players and the open age players, I guess. But yeah, it's an interesting one, especially this far out. I wonder if the Student Rugby League World Cup will actually go ahead. I hope it does. I think they could do it without Australia. But, yeah, it's probably the first. The reason that stands out is it's the first representative game that we've seen that's been any teams have withdrawn from that far ahead of time anyway.
Fairly certain, too, there's a lot of European teams in that Universities World Cup. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But that might be a big reason as to why the Australian ones have pulled out too, because I mean the coronavirus has ripped through Europe.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably just playing it safe there in that regard.
Most likely. And that's fair enough. As I said, they're students. You don't want to be taking any unnecessary risks, I guess. But hopefully by then they're sitting at home watching it and thinking, man, we should have been there. Everything's fine. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, exactly. So does that wrap up all of the news?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no other big news stories as of now. So hopefully Rugby League can get through another day tomorrow and there's no breaking news.
That'd be a good start. Had any emails?
Not when I last looked.
Yeah, and there's been no new comments either. So.
Oh, that's good.
So people, you follow us on Twitter at FergoFreakPod. We're also on Instagram at FergoFreakPod. Follow us on Facebook, on YouTube. Make sure you go there and subscribe and like all the videos. Send us an email at
podcast@leaguefreak.com.
There you go. You can send essays through there if you like. Make sure you support both of us on Patreon. There's patreon.com/leaguefreak and patreon.com/rlproject. So if you can help us out on those, that'd be fantastic as well. Any last words?
God bless rugby league.
Absolutely. Oh, and did you get your Peter Volandes poster in the whatever it is, Western Weekend News, whatever it is?
No, I haven't. Maybe I should get one and give it away to a random follower.
Yeah, as a prize.
Yeah, what an amazing prize. Maybe I should just frame it and put it next to a picture of Jeebus.
I think it's a great idea. Brilliant idea. Tweet us and tell us what you think you would do with your Peter Volandes poster.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Alrighty, people, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again next time.